Early Saturday morning, it was reported first by CBS Sports' Matt Norlander that Creighton is changing its plans for Thanksgiving week. Originally, they were headed to the Battle of Atlantis, which was actually rescheduled from a trip they were supposed to take during COVID, if I recall.
The Battle for Atlantis. It was supposed to be in 2020.
Yeah. But of course, everything got canceled that year. And this is one of the premier is it
MTE?
NTE. Yeah.
It's that and Maui, right? Those are the two big dogs?
Maui's up there, and Battle for Atlantis is up there, yes.
Which is wild, because Maui is old. Battle for Atlantis is fairly new.
Right, but the organizers have done a really good job. It's Atlantis. It's got usually has ESPN televising. Usually the field is very strong.
Yeah.
And this year's field would have been very strong. And we told you last week about the NIL tournament, the NIL-driven tournament that's being held in Las Vegas called the Players Era Festival, in which every team that participates is being promised $1 million just to participate. And that's $1 million going to the NIL collectives of those schools. So essentially, the players are getting paid to play in this. Now, they've got to do some NIL-related things around it. They're getting through all the loops and what hoops there are, I should say. But this is essentially a chance for each of the school's collectives to pick up $1 million. That won't have to come from their donors. And that Creighton has bought themselves out of the Atlantis contract and probably burned a bridge for a while. If there's ever a hope to wanting to go back to a tournament like this, I have no idea. I have no inside information, but, I'm guessing that the organizers probably weren't too happy because they had their field set. They had a perennial NCAA tournament team, a Sweet 16 team.
They will not be invited anymore ever again.
And I mean, at least not anywhere anytime soon. But that Creighton has also reportedly signed a 3-year deal.
Yeah, that's very fascinating
with this event, which already had a field. Alabama, Houston, Notre Dame, Oregon, Rutgers, San Diego State, and Texas A&M were already committed.
And that's just for this upcoming year, right?
And that's for this year, but that there's talks that this tournament could expand. It could move up to 16 teams. And there were some other big heavy hitters like Duke and Kansas and others who were saying, hey, we want in on some of this action.
But at the very least now, if you are Greg McDermott and you're recruiting Creighton, hey, you will come here and you will be a part of this for the next 2 seasons. In terms of guaranteed, that's a lot of guaranteed money.
Correct.
Which is obviously why this thing has gotten, so big so fast. And why they're trying to grow it literally in size moving forward.
Exactly.
And that would be the biggest of one of these MTEs, right? 16 teams. Most of them are usually 8 because they do the 3 games. 16 would be, if it's a traditional bracket type thing, it'd be 4 games for if it could be 16 teams, but it could be 2 8-team tournaments. Okay, so you think they could still just have it where they do 3 games?
That's how I would possibly see this happen.
Yeah, pretty fascinating. Also,
and certainly there are some concerns out there about, well, how are the organizers going to make money off of this? I don't.
Well, it seems like this is kind of like the Live Tour, right? It's less about making money and more just about having the money.
I guess.
Yeah. John writes, without having football TV deal, Creighton could not turn down the money from the NIL tournament. Of course, but this is less even about the university getting paid. This is just something.
Yeah, the university's not making money, but this is theoretically, it's $1 million less you have to go out and raise in NIL.
I was told earlier from someone very close to this situation that said this now puts Creighton firmly in the top 15 in terms of NIL operations for the next 3 years because of this. They are flatly or plainly in there, no concerns at all. Yeah. That is where they will be. That is massive for recruiting.
And especially with, everything that's changing in college sports, and we've got more details on that in this proposed settlement that's out there regarding, the House versus NCAA case that we've been talking about the last few days. Yeah, you're looking for any edge you can get right now if you're a school that does not have a big-time football program and doesn't have the gigantic television money that a Big Ten or an SEC does.
Yeah. So you'll burn one bridge because, I mean, look, you're secure for a few seasons.
Right.
You know that you can recruit with this.
The
You know
only
that
way
it can be
this, the only way
guaranteed.
this backfires is if,
The money's not there, right?
If the money's not there, something falls apart with this tournament.
Yes.
But if that's the case, there are a lot of people that are out on their rear ends because of this.
Exactly. Yeah. Alabama. I mean, name all those schools again. It's a lot
Yeah.
of really good schools in there. A lot of good basketball programs in there.
So this is it seems to me like a no-brainer. You go where the money is.
Yeah.
And that's where and listen, an event like this, whether this event succeeds, continues, doesn't, whatever the case, this is the way these types of events and, dare I say, bowl games are going to be moving forward. We're going to hear at some point about
guaranteed contracts.
One of these guaranteed contracts for bowl games that will come with similar payouts or at least similar contributions to NIL. I have no doubt about that.
You mentioned it last week when we first were unpacking this story, it's kind of a surprise that basketball beat football to that in terms of tournaments versus bowl games. But you are absolutely right that will happen at some point in time very, very soon, and that this is going to be operating procedures moving forward.
So that was some rather interesting news, and the wife was just fine.
Good. That was the thing that I was worried about.
She said, listen, it's not about us. It's about what the kids want to do.
Wow, interesting. Also, you said something in there that I think we all need to apply to recruiting moving forward too. You go where the money is, says John Bishop.
Well, that's kind of where it is.
Wow, listen to that tone. That was interesting.
It sounded like the tone of a defeated man.
It's not so much defeated. I mean, listen.
Acceptance.
There are, like with everything else, there are good and bad things that come with this kind of change. The bad is that we're probably going to see the implosion of college sports as we know it.
What's the good?
Well, the good is that the athletes are finally getting a share.
There you
At
go.
least a
At
share.
least a share.
In the words of Scott Frost.
At least a share.
Yep.